Kelba. Colleen Songs is Canadian singer-songwriter and author, currently working on her second album with CCMA Producer of the Year, Tom McKillop, as well as working on her soon-to-be-published memoir, Inhale. Colleen started writing music at the age of 14. She spent her years exploring her gift of writing as an art form that she calls wordsmithing. A 22-year MS survivalist, recovering from a car accident and emergency neck surgery that almost took away her gift, she continues to live her dreams despite the odds, shifting talents to fulfill her calling. Colleen is speaking to you today about this life on a ghost ranch, how a 4-year experience on an empty ranch during her recovery gave her a new outlook about the perfect time sequence of love, life, talent, and dreams. Please welcome Colleen Dewey Kelba.
Thank you, Janice, my wrangler, who got me here on time and keeps me sane. She's my magic clicker. Now, y'all can just hunker down for a wee bit of a story because I need my book and I need my little stool. I'm going to tell y'all a little story. And it's set right here in this Bow Valley corridor. So once upon a time, it's the afternoon of Thanksgiving 2013. My husband and I climbed Mount Yamnuska and looked down over the beautiful Bow Valley corridor as we ate our turkey sandwiches. He told me a story about a time 15 years ago, before Colleen, when he spent 5 years and $150,000 in time, effort, business plans on a dream to redevelop a local guest ranch into a first-class destination health spa. He had even put down a sizable down payment on a section of land that he was promised, only to discover it was not subdividable after all, because you don't make a deal on a napkin with a cowboy. And sure, he could have sued and severed ties and waxed his balls, but he didn't. I found out later that's what I would have done, but this is later. But he didn't. He shook their hands, integrity intact, and continued efforts to strategize, lobby, and offer solutions to the failing culture of the business he was no longer welcomed in. And as we sat on the banks of Yamnuska, savoring our sandwiches, he looked down upon that same dream and let it go. We got back home, hunkered down for another winter. On November 15th, the phone rang. Talk about that one call that makes a hell of a lot of difference. A call from a trust company requesting information about Grant's association with this ranch. And he was like, okay, I finally got a chance to share it all. So he just told them everything, why he was there, in what capacity, in what integrity he was there. And after a long discussion, the trust company asked Grant if he would oversee the receivership and eviction of the property. They needed a man on the ground who knew the history, the people, and the details of this long-standing icon, someone who would respect the sensitivity of the situation. We talked about it, and he called them back with their answer. The timing couldn't have been better. He's an avid entrepreneur, so nothing really holds him back. So, of course. And as he hung up, he marked it on his calendar, exactly 15 years to the day of the original deal. But this was no easy task, and I knew about receivership all too well. I was 9 when my parents lost their sawmill that Dad had worked his entire life for and set up as a family-run business. After my dad won the contracts for CN and CP Rail, his business partner stole the books and removed Dad from the accounts, and it was merely weeks later when we were watching everything my dad and Mom worked for being towed away. My dad crying in the window and my mom holding his hand, and we were crying, and that shifted them because they took us in their arms. And he said, all that really matters, girls, is right here in these old arms of mine. Receivership is a very tender situation, but a job is a job, and better Grant take this on than a company who had no connection to the people being uprooted. Within a day, he knew why he was asked to partake in such a task. His emotions were high, desperation was peak, tempers were raw. Grant soothed them as much as he could by offering them as much time as he was allowed to facilitate the enormity of their move. They were there for 36 years. Their babies were born there. Their footprints haunted the halls. He would travel back and forth daily to offer help and secure what he could for the benefit of the sale. He eventually had to have someone with him on those trips because it got a little like, you were like dodging bullets a little bit. On the home front that December, though, I need some water. I'm a little parched because I got a little dehydrated last night. I don't know what got into me. I blamed it on Sylvie when Grant saw all the pictures. He believed me. On the home front that December, planning a new chapter in my music and writing, I was in a car accident, sideswiped by a little old lady who didn't shoulder check. We got off the road, hugged, and she kissed my cheek, so upset that this happened just before Christmas. I simply had a little pinch in my neck. Within weeks, I was in so much pain that any point of touch was excruciating. In the hospital, pain management efforts were maxed. Emergency neck surgery was my only ticket out of the pain. So there we were, stressed to the max. I was saying goodbye to my gift of song by the reality of the neck surgery. The surgery would be performed through the front of my throat. Tissues and tendons, esophagus, and vocal cords were shifted to the side for the procedure to be done. Tender, fragile tissues and cells. Never mind the maneuvering of the C-spine to put it all back in. The surgery said it would be the strongest part of my body. If anything happened, that's going to survive whatever alien discovers us in a million years. Oh, that's Colleen's neck. I heard about that. He just couldn't predict what it would do to my vocalers at all. So Grant traveled daily to oversee the ranch, facing heated situations and coming home to his wife in the hospital, and he couldn't touch me. Nothing could touch me. I can't even describe the pain. Like 10 babies at once, man. Your yoni's like not yodeling. It's moaning. I was so exhausted when he visited me one time that he fell asleep on a gurney in one of the hallways in the hospital. And the security's like, "Oh, mister, are you a bum? Do you need to go to a shelter?" And he's like, "Oh, sorry, my wife's in the hospital, blah, blah, blah." So anyway, he looked like shit. He was able to delay the takeover date by a few weeks, but by the morning he was to retrieve the keys and boot them out for good. I had to be in surgery. So between him and my daughter, they were able to coordinate that one of them would be there when I went to surgery and one of them would be there when I got out. Grant didn't want me to have an empty image. It was perfect timing. I'll never forget waving him goodbye, fearing never seeing him again, to opening my eyes to my pretty girl. I'll never forget how haggard and worn he looked when he could finally touch me again and he folded into me. We had been asked to actually live on site as well. An even bigger undertaking now, and I wasn't about to say no because I'm a cowgirl and I can do anything, right? But I couldn't do much at all. So it's like, holy shit, now what are we going to do? We have to live on site. We can't tell our bosses because they're going to think we're not capable, and so now we have to do this. And I'm just like, we're doing it. I'm no buckle bunny, okay? I look like one. But I'm not one at all. So I was still bedridden, so cleaning and moving without help was impossible. But nothing is impossible without family, friends, and neighbors who just came today. I can't thank them enough. From Dixie Bennett, giving me a massage therapy in my hospital bed, to Amy Hutton, sitting by my bedside during my recovery, to Janice, painting my toes pink and sculpting silly putty Harvey the Hounds with me. If none of you know, Grant, my husband, was the creator and performer of Harvey the Hound for the first 15 years. He's really groovy. And my friend Trina Rogers giving us a day off and sending us live footage of the outhouse getting stolen off the property. And Grant gets a text, "Oh, can we please get the outhouse from the property?" And Grant sent them the video. We know. That was brilliant. So gifts and flowers filled our home and ranch. And it happened to be, of course, my timing. The worst effing winter on record. If all of you remember, it was minus 25 for 8 months straight. The wind in this corridor is brutal. I couldn't imagine being a pioneer woman here. I met the Brewsters, okay, 6 generations of pioneer women here. They're my friends. I'm not one of them either. I worked for Janet Brewster, generation number 5. She kicks your ass. You scrub with a toothbrush in a rainstorm and cut wood too, before 2 o'clock in the morning. The wind in this corridor is brutal at times. I couldn't imagine being a pioneer woman here. I thought I was tough. I can sew, I can clean, I can cook from scratch. I can make a meal out of sawdust, pull weeds, drive a 4x4, change a tire, stack wood, drive in a blizzard, clean a barn. But this, not one bit. Not one frickin' bit. Because it looked like that with minus 25 and winds that got rid of all your hairspray cells for 8 months. It's not nice. I like soft, fluffy, warm towels and a bug, bat, and mouse, free floors and ceilings. That was on my desk in the morning. And I pooped a little and definitely left the house. We found a lot about one another during this time of Green Acres meets Bob Newhart and a few scenes from The Shining. Grant experienced stink eye for me for the first time in our relationship, and each time he promised me something better tomorrow, he delivered. I couldn't sleep on the makeshift bed we had, and when we least expected it, but most needed it, we found an unopened queen-size airbed in one of the rooms of the ranch that we already had seen in that room so many times that there it was, and we slept on it for 8 months. And yes, you can make love on an airbed, just very, very, very slow. And I need another drink after that. As I got stronger, we started walking. Both of us being hell-bent on fitness, it burned my ass that I was so weak and helpless. It was my secret to kicking 20 years of MS in the butt. So we'd get our coffee or tea, bundle up from chin to tippy toe, and we walked. 20 minutes became an hour became off trail. No matter the temperature, we walked every morning, breathing in the peace because we knew that we didn't know what the day would hold for us. We'd hold each other when we got back, and we took on the day. We had a lot to do to make that place sellable. You see, there were 350 bondholders about to lose all of their investment if we didn't show this place. There were millions of dollars raised and debts paid off, but no accountability on where the rest of it went. One investor had already committed suicide from their loss of their retirement. Another couple had to live in their son's basement suite for the rest of her life, and we were working for them, and nobody was talking about them. Not the paper, not the media, and I get a little pissed off about that. The land needed saging, purging, cleaning, resting, grooming. That's me, that was fun. Buildings needed stripping, leaks patched, pathways that were made accessible, pests trapped or caught. Oh yeah, that's Grant clearing the pathways. He looks really good with that. And that's a pack rat. Isn't he cute? No, he smells like a whore on a Sunday morning. That's not a pretty smell, girls. I wasn't going to say that analogy, but after all the language that happened on this Freedom Weekend, fuck yeah. Namaste. As we got to know the land, she seriously gave us everything we asked for, as simple as a rare replacement faucet or an extension cord that we couldn't find in stores. We became very intimate with her. One night we lost water from yet another frozen pipe, and Grant went out to repair the pipe, and I followed him by doing what I could, hold the light steady. Anything beat being left in that place all by myself. It was a cold, crisp night, not a breath of wind, and that particular night was the night of the lunar eclipse. When the job was done, he held me and said how lucky he was that anyone else would have left him for taking on such a job. I just told him I would never have seen this then. We counted our blessings and were thankful for the opportunity to be out there, but it was hard too. We discovered things about one another we had not experienced yet. We had only been married just over a year. I discovered how even-tempered he was, which is good for me. But when it came to justice, he was so frickin' calm, it drove me crazy. I rediscovered how red-tempered frickin' Irish woman I am. I could be that, and when it came to justice, I shot first and asked questions later. I still do that. But then there were those cold, blustery, wintry nights. We'd waken to the light snuffle scratches of elk surrounding the lodge. And we felt like Adam and Eve as we watched our herd through the screen of the old Western movie we were living. I can't describe how those nights and mornings calmed our hearts. Inside my heart, though, I was really bummed out by the accident. Neck surgery and the isolation I was starting to feel living out there. I would ask myself, why my neck? Just when I was starting to rethink my next phase in my music again. Why my precious gift? We made weekly and bi-weekly trips to Calgary to see my physiotherapist for pain management. And then eventually I had to do prolotherapy, which injected pain medicine between each vertebrae with a needle. I still go regularly as daily tasks such as running, weight training, dancing out of control in hot pants, cooking, dishes, desk work, reading, driving, holding my guitar, singing, talking, give me neck pain and headaches. But that first year, I find myself getting very down and very lost, and I had zero pain tolerance. The isolation, the never-ending chores that I could barely do, I couldn't keep up. Sad, crying, lost in my talent, questioning my existence, rediscovering the temper I seemed to have zero control buttons for. And then spring came. We had to clean up the grounds as the snow melted. I had no choice but to think about that and not think about me. The barns and corrals were a mess. So that's Grant, my friend. They did a lot of poop patrol. So we fostered 2 wild Arabs. I don't know if you guys remember the Arabian breeding anyway, they had a big breeding facility for Arabs a few years ago, and they were confiscated and taken off land. Well, I got the sire, who was just freshly, and he was a little crazy, and this was his little counterpart who wanted to be crazy, and she was. So we took them in and fostered them for a while, and my girlfriend brought out her horse, Doc, who was a total asshole, to help eat down the overgrown grasses and make the ranch look like a ranch. I love horses, but he was an ass. I could no longer ride and do the risky, heavy tasks that a horsewoman required, and I dreamt of Thank You, Amy. And it was one more limit that I had to face. that having those horses there, and they are magic healers, I realized what I could do. I could still have them around me by practicing groundwork. I could quiet my mind as I eased myself into their trust. They taught me the art of surrender. That was my wildie. It opened me up to a new way of being. So what if I couldn't ride anymore? I could groom and touch and train on the ground. I could share my softness and my calmness with them. So what if I couldn't ride anymore? I was living in the mountains. Take a hike. Standing at the corner to cook made me dizzy. Pull up a chair to peel the spuds. I had to keep fit to keep my MS in check, so I modified my lifestyle. I started from the beginning, as though I had never worked out before. Our morning walks helped my spirit. Light training kept my muscles strong. A microgreen diet kept the weight off, another vice of MS. And maybe I couldn't sing anymore, but I could write. And I saw an ad in the Outlook, a local paper here in Canmore, of a writers group who met in Canmore. And thank you, Carol and Teresa, for being here. Thank you, Carol. I was now among poets, authors, even Nobel Prize-winning laureates, and I was sitting beside her. I always wanted to be a librarian. Oh, this was a yoni, man. This was a yoni to sit beside this woman. I was in an element I wanted to rise into. Any of my worders here, it's yes, Carol and Teresa came. I loved the cabin. There was one cabin that Marilyn Monroe had supposedly slept in. Grant wanted to sit in the tub a lot. Mm-hmm. It hovered in the tree line behind the big lodge, and Grant set up a writing room for me. He'd do anything. And I began to write. You see, I lived a story BG before Grant. One that sculpted who I was that led me to him. One I stuffed away, cut off, and left to die as it had left me. My temper was flared, not from the situation I was in, but because I had an untold story dying to come out, and I wasn't listening to the signs. There is no greater agony than an untold story kept hidden inside you. You know that wordsmith, Maya Angelou. But my story was scary. It was heavy. Last night, I processed how heavy it was because I didn't realize how heavy it was. And I was going to back out this morning. I was so close to backing out this morning. It's a heavy story about being the caregiver of a loved one with a narcissistic personality, bipolar 1, and suicide. My life was amazing now. Why would I bring all that up again? I'm not a doctor. I can't write a self-help book. I don't want that responsibility. But the topic wouldn't leave me. Write the book, it would tell me. I simply started writing as a blog to be kind of a little bit brave. And after the 7th entry, I had 4,000 reads. Suicide was becoming a new age plague, and it made me so freaking angry. And I knew the other side of suicide. I witnessed things that could turn that mindset around. Don't tell me it can't because I've seen it. I'll shut you down. I couldn't explain how, but I can now. And I didn't have to. That wasn't my job. I had to write the story. To find my brave and write the story and trust, just like that little wild Arab. He bucked, he squawked, he kicked, and I eventually just loved him. So there I was, in an island in the mountains, forced by circumstance to shut up and listen. So I wrote. I wrote and I wrote. I wrote in my authentic self a story in prose and lyric. I wrote it in the present to carry you with me through not only my footsteps, but my thoughts. Because that horrible question, Why did you stay then? What kept you there? It mustn't have been that bad if you stayed all that time. Fuck you. Yeah. My thoughts. I shared my thoughts so that those thoughts will answer those questions for you. For every woman you see in a hostel, every child you hear about who found their parent or a loved one in that freaking tub or in their driveway or in their garage, I had to tell you the thoughts behind those lines. And I screamed and I cried and I hollered through that empty cabin. And she let me. She let me. I purged a story I thought long forgotten and grieved. I fooled myself that I grieved it all out of my body. It was 9 years of living it. How can I get rid of it in 2? I used my time of stillness and sadness to build my talent of writing, to get me out of a hole I was allowing myself to fall into, blaming it on something else. What a crutch that was. Every chapter I felt lighter and brighter. I wrote about a woman who made herself very visible to me through every chapter. I spoke to her. I let her speak. I wrote her words and acknowledged my present self through her past. 1 year turned to 2, 2 to 3. Throughout those years, I blossomed along with the land that we were caring for, purging the past, grooming the soil, rebirthing into new life. Looking back, the solitude I felt was necessary for me to listen to the story within me and allow it the space to let it out. The car accident and neck surgery was to silence me so that I can rediscover a new talent that would carry me further. And I could rely on that gift to carry me when my voice needed healing and to be brought to a new dimension. I began to trust in serendipity, see the unexpected as a future gift, not a threat. As I began to heal my spirit, finally, I was able to heal my body. Slowly, I could run again, and we took advantage of where we lived every day. That's a 21-kilometer run in the mountains. Slowly, I could run. We took advantage of where we lived. The mountain bluebirds will fill our winter and spring with their vivid wingspan, elk herds, deer, coyotes. That's Wiley, by the way. They would visit us throughout the blustery winter months. Hummingbirds. We named them all. I think the one up top was asshole. I like that word. he would literally fly down over them and say, like, my cantina. Just get out of here. They'd come every May and leave at the end of August. We knew when winter was coming when the hummingbirds left. We let the land itself heal from overgrazing, and the delicate grasses and wildflowers came to life. Wildlife became more wild and abundant. They're so cute. These little peanuts. Big, sorry, did I say little? I'm sorry. By not reacting out of revenge, out of greed or bitterness or holding a grudge, Grant was given a graceful ending to his story at the ranch. I was given a safe place to heal, to share memories with our kids, friends, and family, and to have a quiet place to write my story left untold. We knew by year 3 that we were done. Just felt it, that our job was done. What my time in these mountains taught me is something that happened 15 years ago, before Grant even knew who his greatest love of his life was. It set us both up on a remarkable journey. And when you live with integrity, and mind you, we made mistakes. We made some pretty good mistakes. Like, they were awesome. But integrity walked us to face that person we hurt or had a misunderstanding with. Integrity walked us there and faced it, and we made it right. And we learned that dreams never expire. They simply shift to empower us to reach deeper. That's been my motto for my entire music career, and I believe that your gifts and talents are tools you can utilize to build your purpose and build hope. We are here to experience humanity in all its gore and juicy glory. When we talk about our stories, hello, and cry and laugh, feel all the emotions we are designed to feel, we won't be able to harbor ill will or sink into depression and anxiety. Feel those frickin' emotions. Let them run through your body like a surge of light, a bolt of electricity, and burn your butt to get you off of it. And life is just life. At the end of the day, no matter what the day holds, all that really matters fits right here in these old arms of mine.